Gabby by Yolanda. Greetings and how are you all? This is the Promoted Podcast, the podcast that gets you promoted and be great when you get there. My name is Renee Wooten, your host of Promoted, aerospace engineer, pilot and professional speaker. And I am here with our other incredible host, Felicity Fury, CEO and founder of We Aspire. Felicity, how are you today? Where are you calling in from?
Wanya, I'm on Gubby Gubby country, still on the beautiful Sunshine Coast, loving this beautiful sunshine we're getting in winter. It's absolutely gorgeous and so grateful for the traditional custodians of the land which have kept this place so beautiful for tens of thousands of years. Renee, where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from Jaival country today, up on the Darling Downs, Toowoomba, on the Great Dividing Range. Also beautiful weather up here. We get such a variation, to be honest. Like it starts like 3 degrees in the morning, and then by midday it's like 25 degrees. It feels like winter and summer at the same time. So it's kind of a beautiful mix of both, to be honest. But we have such an exciting topic to get into today. Felicity, over to you.
Yes, so I was in a coffee meeting this week and I got this question, and it's a question I've gotten a lot actually from young people, something I've personally experienced myself, and I'm really curious to see if there's something that you've had too, which is around what do you do when you look young? So I'm going to reveal my age. I'm 37. Some people say I don't look that old, which is very interesting to me. I've been in many Ubers and they say, how old are you? Or they've guessed my age. I get 25 a lot, which cool. I'm going to go with. Why not? But it can be tricky. I mean, you can be the judge if you're watching this video of how old I look. But it's been really interesting throughout my career because it's something I've been really self-conscious of, particularly because early on I had roles which had a lot of responsibility. And if you're a technical professional, this might be something that you've experienced where, say, you're an engineer and you've gone in, you're leading part of a project, you're on a construction site, you're leading a whole team, and you might be in your early 20s. So for me, I was 23. I had been given a portfolio of projects, $45 million of road projects, and I was the project manager. And to tell a story, I distinctly remember I was speaking with a local councillor about one of our projects on the phone, and it was a great conversation. He got the information he needed, and then a few days later, I was out on site, and the road was closed. It was a road project, and there's this bloke walking around on site. Like, who's this guy? It's not commissioned yet. It's not open. Like, you can't walk around. And look, it was fine. Like, the landscaping had been done. We were just waiting a couple of days to open the road. And he walks down. Turns out he's the local councillor. And I said, excuse me, what are you doing on this project? And he goes, well, I'm the local councillor. I said, well, it doesn't matter who you are. It's not safe. It's part of our safety rules. You shouldn't be walking around the road. And he said, who are you kind of thing? And I said, I'm Felicity. I'm the project manager. And we've spoken on the phone. And he literally said to me, wow, you look so much younger than I expected. And I was like, that's a really random thing to say. Like, does my age have anything to do with it? And so I've been very self-conscious of how old I look, something that's been challenging me for a long time. I've had mentors who are men say, I just grew a beard. Obviously, you can't do that. And it is really tricky. So Renee, have you had this situation, first of all? Maybe you haven't. And if you have, how have you navigated it?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I actually haven't had it that explicitly, and by the sounds of it, as often as you. What I have had though is probably, I walk into a room and people don't value what I have to offer, whether it be because I'm a young female and I haven't realized that that's the reason why. So it's funny because when I was interviewing for my recent job, one of the things that I shared with my now boss, Meg, is that
Shout out, Meg.
shout out to Meg. Walk into a room, I generally have to throw my resume on the table for people to respect what I have to offer. And I was saying to Meg, I hate having to do that because it's like, an ego thing. It's excuse me, I'm the aerospace engineer and pilot, and that's the opinion I thing. And until you know that I do that, you're not going to give me the time of day to actually offer an opinion or have an opportunity to talk. So yeah, I'm sharing with Meg, I hate having to throw my resume around. And, it's because people look at me and go, oh, wow, there's a young, good looking female. I wonder who she is. And let's the boys get down to business. And then I'm like, hi, it's me. Me. I've got something to say. And generally, it's not until I go, hey, I'm actually an aerospace engineer and yes, I'm a pilot. And then people go, oh, and you should see it like physically, people will turn and look at me. And then most people, from what I can gather, is they reflect on the fact that, I don't have those credentials, or wow, this person actually has something that they could offer. And yeah, whilst the comments around, hey, you look too young to be doing this job, never really come up for me. It's never been attitude towards me in meetings that I find has been the biggest indicator of, a lack of appreciation or underestimating the value that I have to offer. But
Oh, it's probably something I'm really self-conscious of. And when you've got that thing in your mind, like, oh, I look like this, and then it like keeps showing up, or people have this impression of me, and you create that filter. So then through that filter, you see it all the time. So I'm definitely conscious that I have a filter for it. And been interesting just recently because I've been really embracing introducing myself as the CEO of We Aspire. And even though I've been, had that role for 4 years now, it's been still something I haven't been 100% comfortable with. And I took some coaching from one of my mentors, and in the last month or so, I've been really going, hey, I'm Felicity, I'm the CEO of We Aspire. 3 people have asked me my age, like blank, how old are you? And it's been so, like, I kind of think it's funny now, like, the people ask that question, like, wow, they're so curious that they'd actually ask that.
yeah,
For me, I just wouldn't, because for me, it's the respect thing of, they, must be capable, etc. But I've just found it like almost now I'm in the experiment phase of as a social experiment. This is
and
so
also
fascinating.
it's fascinating that they validate you based on your age as well. Like, if I happened with the CEO of this incredible leadership company, I would walk up to him and be like, wow, tell me about your career experience. Because that to me would
Yeah.
tend to be like, yes, you're competent and capable, as opposed to like, hang on, how old are you? Like,
So interesting. And even an event a few weeks ago, met someone for the first time. They said, what do you do? I said, I'm the CEO of We Aspire. And then I explained like, 1/10 about what we do. And she was like, tell me more about that. And she was like, and who are your clients? And she was like drilling with questions. Like, wow, she must be really interested in the business. And then she went, and how old are you? And I told her, and then she said, oh, okay. Well, I was just wondering, because for someone to do all that, like, you seem really young. And it's wow, people say this stuff out loud in a networking event. This is absolutely fascinating. So for me, I have had it be like a trigger, like people don't think that I'm capable. But I think there's a flip side to it. I think that also, people underestimate you if they have an impression about you. So how I've thought about it most recently is being confident. And I don't always feel confident, but you can also be confident. And what I mean by that is inside I might go, oh my gosh, I'm a bit scared about this situation. But for me, it could be something, a real physical indicator. If I'm meeting someone who is really important or at a networking event, I'll put my hand out and strongly say, hi, my name's Felicity. And you probably can't see on the screen here, but, really force myself to make that action. So I am being confident in how I'm presenting myself. And that's something that it's hard to do, but it's really helped me. And there's another term that I've learnt recently from an amazing coach. His name's Ryan Tuckwood. He runs Swish Sales Coaching, and it does say sales, but ultimately it's all around communicating and building that confidence in communicating. And he calls them value builders. So how can you add value builders into your introduction and into what you're talking about? What I mean by a value builder is, for me, and I have to often think about this, I think it's 17 years I've worked in the engineering world. So so just thinking about some of those things that give you value, or I actually went through my CV again and noticed that if I add up the experience leading Power of Engineering and We Aspire and the other startups I've run, I've actually got over 15 years experience in an executive role. And so just going through and just thinking, what are all those ways that I add value? Or I run a business and I'm an engineer and I've worked on infrastructure projects. So then when you're in these situations, you can just throw a line in, like, I don't mean like a line like cheesy, but say, oh, look, this is just my opinion from working in the industry for 17 years. Here's what I found on major infrastructure projects. What do you think? And you just kind of weave in these little value builders along the way that really helps build that credibility piece, where people might not necessarily be asking, what is your CV? What is your experience? So tell me, what's helped you, Renee?
And that's the person me to think like, he's my resume. How the hell you
The value builder. But it's, I think there's a piece there in actually doing the work of writing it down and spending the time thinking, how do I add value? And look, I know I feel like the examples to get are pretty extreme in terms of, I know most people aren't going to have experience of, being an executive, but there'll be so many things where you add value. Even simple things like, Renee, you being from a regional area, being the first in your family to go to university, you were sharing on a previous episode. those things add a huge amount of value. And if you are a young person or the youngest person in the room, you're always going to bring a different perspective. Each one of us does. It could be a fresh perspective. It could be a new idea. And so I think taking that time to work out what makes you unique, and then you can add those little value builders as you go.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think that that's actually incredibly powerful. I was just thinking about, we've got this great intern in our team, and she is so well spoken and such a great communicator that if she walked into a room and just started, sharing more about a project that she's doing, I would not doubt her for a second. And it's only because she's young and a bit inexperienced that she has that self-doubt herself. That kind of, demonstrates that she is younger. But if she actually held her own and, went for it and was confident, irrespective of her own perception of herself, I think that she could easily captivate an audience. So I think the takeaway there is actually, even if you don't think that you deserve to be in a room or you're amazed that you're in that room, I think just absorb as much as you can and don't lean into this lack of self-confidence. Don't lean into the insecurity. Don't lean into the fact that you are young. Lean into the fact that you are there to learn, you're enthusiastic and engaged, and you've got a lot to contribute based on the life experience that you've had. And actually, I spend a lot of my time, coaching and mentoring young engineers and First Nations youth. And what I find is a lot of young people just don't feel worthy ever. And it doesn't matter life experience they've had. It doesn't matter if they're from a privileged or a disadvantaged background. This feeling or lack of worth is evident because people compare themselves all the time, or they play into the stereotypes and biases of I am young and therefore I do not deserve this, or I am young and someone gave me a helping hand and I don't feel worthy. So a point of reflection really is we were all young at one point and we all learned. So just appreciate where you are at in your journey. You're not there to prove yourself in terms of, having to play into being young. It's more about how much you're willing to absorb, how much you're willing to contribute to a conversation. And the fact is acknowledging that you're at a point in time and you have X, Y, Z experience, and that's okay. You're going to keep growing from there. So even if people come to you and say, oh, you're too young for that, or you look too young to be doing that, just take them for their opinion and then just keep going, because it is just an opinion. And I think so many times, it's really challenging. Again, I come back to, we are built up we grow up in this system where we're defined by our academic results, right? And that's one way of measuring people's level of intelligence or how successful they might be in the future. But there's two pieces to, that need to come together for people to be successful. And that is academic intelligence, your emotional intelligence, and bringing those things together to really grow as an individual. And whilst we may feel like the biases, the stereotypes we need to conform to in the academic world are there, there's actually so much that needs to be said around your emotional intelligence and being street smart and really backing yourself, irrespective of your age, your capability in the academic world. Steve Jobs and many other phenomenal people that never finished year 12 in school or didn't go on to get a university degree has succeeded phenomenally. So just keep that in mind that, for me, I was never a high distinction average student throughout my engineering degree, but I have succeeded really well in the corporate world. And that has taken me by surprise, because I actually thought that because I grew up being defined by this academic system, that I could only ever be as much as my results were. And actually it turns out that I'm succeeding because I'm great at talking to people, or I, find it easy to manage lots of input and still provide good output. So, don't judge yourself based on one aspect of your life, whether it's your age, your academic results. Really just lean into what you love. Keep having conversations, keep absorbing information, and represent yourself well. Don't undervalue yourself, because every single person at a point in time where you are now. So, and someone gave them a helping hand, someone invested in their strengths and supported their growth to get to become a successful leader. So, yeah.
Totally agree. I'm glad you said the thing about back yourself, because I wanted to bring that point up is you've got to back yourself first before somebody else does. If you're not confident in you, then other people won't have that confidence. So it starts really by backing yourself first. And you're right, Renee, it doesn't matter what background you came from. Like for me, I think I grew up in a very privileged position, in the inner suburbs of Brisbane. I just guess middle class family. I went to a good Catholic girls' school, and that was the environment that I was brought in. So there's a lot of privilege that comes with that. I still feel like I'm not good enough. That's something that I constantly have to think about and I guess struggle with, or that I contend with. Things like I had no engineers in my family. I failed maths in my first year of university in engineering. So if I'd listened to myself of, oh, I'm a failure in maths, then there'd be no way I would have graduated or gone on to do the things that I've done. So I think backing yourself first is the most important step, because that will show that confidence in others. It was interesting thinking back to that question around my CEO mentor who, prompted me to start introducing myself really confidently as a CEO. And I circled back with him and I said, do you know that I've had so many more people ask me my age? And he goes, did you tell them? I went, what do you mean? And he's like, well, did you tell them how old you are? I was like, yeah, I just answered the question. He goes, oh, Felicity, you could have said, why does that matter? Or why you asked? Oh, that's interesting. Why are you asking? I was like, oh, that's good. So next someone asks me my age, I'm totally use that. I feel like it's going to take courage. I'm cringing at myself already about it, but
No, that's the roots. That's true. This is literally hitting the bias on the head. And I'm a huge advocate for this because, I don't want to change the topic, but growing up and feeling so defined by my Aboriginality, feeling so defined by the fact that I was from a regional area. I didn't go to a great school. I went to a public system, and, similar to you, Felicity, I failed subject my first year of university. So, the because of the stereotypes that we have around society, we are so hard on ourselves to the point where we limit ourselves by our belief. So we go, great, I've failed this thing, therefore I'm not worthy to actually achieve. I don't know how I'm going to get through this degree, so I probably won't. So then you start telling yourself that story, and then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, if you keep telling yourself you're going to fail, you're going to fail.
absolutely.
That's what I believe anyway. Yeah. So again, if you challenge people's biases, you will make them, first of all, realize that they are biased. Second of all, it's inappropriate to ask that, and it's also kind of rude. And finally, it gives them an opportunity to learn for themselves that, hey, maybe I'm better on the questions that I ask people, because I don't actually need to know that information.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I encourage particularly diverse people that are constantly coming up against, I think your husband was coaching a young girl recently who's culturally diverse, and she was saying she applied to 50 jobs and never got a call. And I was like, oh my God, I was like, you're so educated. You're so incredible. Your life experience is so interesting. I can't believe that this has happened. And so she started internalizing that. It's because I'm diverse. And she literally asked me, is it because I'm, diverse in these ways? And I was like, it can't possibly be, because I was like, a lot of these corporates are trying to hire diversity.
Yeah.
So, but obviously you're not hitting the nail on the head. There's something that's missing, or maybe there's a lesson in this for you that you need to put more effort into one single thing. Maybe you're not actually creating a great cover letter and showing the intent of why you want that job. So rather than internalizing I'm the problem, it's more thinking, what is my point of difference? How can I use that to my advantage? And yeah, just not thinking you're the problem. And I think that genuinely that is the biggest issue across society these days, and I keep coming up against it, is people are constantly comparing themselves or not feeling embraced by the system that we operate in. When I refer to the system too, it's what are our social norms? What is culturally appropriate? What biases do people have? And then how are they projecting that onto you? If you love yourself and you love who you are and your life experience, and even if you don't love those things about yourself, but you're learning to love them because that's what you've been gifted with in life, you can't change.
Learning to love them. I love it.
Yeah, learn to love yourself and stop trying to be other people. Try and really hone into what makes me worthy, and stop listening to people's projections onto you, because I feel like that is where a lack of self-confidence comes from, which means that you are then conforming to being a girl in a man's world where you can't stand up for yourself, or, hey, actually, she wasn't strong enough to have a voice at the table. Well, first of all, you probably didn't invite her to have a voice at the table, but secondly, how can you help that person? And that person will then feel welcome to share that voice. But again, all of this is possible if you back yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And, we are working in a bias system, and we're talking about being young here today, but it could be a whole range of different diversities or a whole range of things, whether it's like, oh, I'm too extroverted or I'm too introverted or I'm too this or I'm not enough that, insert word here pretty much. I think the same thing rings true is, around backing yourself and you having that confidence. And it could even be something like, it's something I think we have to literally retrain our brain in. And for me, I like one thing I often tell myself is like, you're a badass. You can do this. And it's really silly out loud, but I do like go in a situation. I go, I don't know if I can. And they'll be like, no, you can do it. Like you can. And I've had to retrain my brain to get out of that. Oh, I look this way, or I am that way, or et cetera, et cetera. And hope this has been valuable for people listening. Would love to know if it has or not. Please hit us up on LinkedIn, send us a DM. Let us know what you think of this episode or any of the other episodes that we have got for you. We'd love to hear your DMs and your feedback. Renee, any last parting thought?
I think just, keep striving for excellence. Don't let anyone stop you. And to your point, I don't think I've received as many comments about being young because I've been very strong and confident walking into a room. So how can you find that confidence and use it to your advantage? Good luck, and let us know how you go.
Thanks, Renee. I should have been listening to you much earlier on because I get it all the time. That's a great episode. Thanks, Renee. Everyone else, we'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.
Bye.